Well, inflation numbers are up. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that this could have happened? Never would have ever thought that inflation numbers would go up. I had to talk about this. I think you all know I have to talk about this. I've been taking a little bit of time to try to analyze everything, but so the consumer prices of goods is up supposedly 5%. Now, I don't know where they get these numbers from because from where I can see, gas is way over 5%, somewhere around there. The cost, I think the cost of just used cars is up well over 5%. So it just makes you scratch your head and think, where do you even get this 5% figure that is, out of line in the first place? That's the crazy part. This number that, in my opinion, is wildly inaccurate and way too low is supposedly way too high. But they're not too concerned down there. Janet Yellen, she's not too concerned. Powell, not very concerned at all. This isn't a big deal to them. This is just transitory. That's the word. I think I've heard that word, I want to say 1,000 times in the last week from every single, station talking about inflation. Transitory. This is just a transitory thing. It's just because we're moving to this No, you printed over $10 trillion in a year and a half. You think that might be the reason for this transitory type thing? Might be that. Just might be. What do I know? I'm just a college dropout. I'm not a fancy economist like Janet Yellen. But it would seem to me that when you have this much in the dollar supply and you increase it to this much, that it would make things cost more money. Just seems, kind of obvious, right? But for some reason, it's just a transitory thing. It's not that big of a deal. It's just all going to change. It's right around the corner. But here's why this is a much bigger deal than just 5% on your price of living, which that's a huge deal. But what's even worse than that is actually a lot worse than 5% because we all see the prices at the gas pump going up way more than 5%. We all see our groceries going up way more than 5%. Everything is up more than 5%, it seems. So I don't even know where they get these numbers from, but it would appear that it's a lot higher than that. But the reason it's such a big deal, and I've talked about this in the past, is that when the prices of goods are going up, when inflation is going up and the cost of goods keeps continuing with inflation, but your wage stays the same. Or you might have even lost your job and now you're on unemployment or something like that. And now your wage is just the same or less, but the cost of everything is going up. That's a very scary scenario. I forget where this term comes from, but I forget who said this, but it was something along the lines of you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Something along those lines. And that's what gets me nervous right now is because more and more Americans are living check to check. And when I say more and more Americans, the number is pretty staggering. I can't just pull it off the top of my head, but the number of Americans that are living check to check is actually a lot higher than I thought last time I checked. And it was, it's pretty scary. So it's like you have a society that's living check to check, renting, and now imagine you're a landlord now. The prices of houses. I have seen there was a listing near me that went up for sale. I think it was like $600,000 for one of these buildings, and the building ended up selling for $750,000 with a competition for this building. I'm sure in your area you've seen it as well, where there's this huge competition just to get the building. So imagine you're a landlord and you have a tenant that decides to move out. Do you think your price is going to go up or your price is going to go down on what you charge the next renter? Something to think about for you at home watching this video. I'm thinking about it. If it's just like, well, shoot, maybe I should lock in a longer term lease or something like that on these different situations, because if you're a landlord and you're seeing these prices skyrocketing across the board, you're thinking, A, how do I make more money and get a new tenant in here to pay me more money or increase it on my current renter? Or should I sell my property? Should I sell my property in 1031 while the 1031 still exists? Because they got that one in sights. They want to take that one out because God forbid we have any way to get ahead but that's the next thing to go is this 1031 exchange, which is actually a way for, it's so scary because this disguise of attacking the rich and getting the rich to pay more taxes or get rid of the 1031 exchange, this actually strips from the middle class and the poor. And that's the scary part, that it's disguised as this tax on the rich. The rich already have the asset. They already got it. They're not looking to get it. They might be looking to get bigger and bigger, but they're already there. It's the poor and middle class that wants to get assets and use a 1031 exchange to move to a bigger property and a bigger property and a bigger property. That's something that helps the middle class. It's not something that just the wealthy use. The wealthy benefit by this tremendous money printing. The wealthy benefit from inflation growing like this. Inflation doesn't help the little guy or the men and women, the smaller men and women in the country. It doesn't help them. It makes their costs of goods go up year over year. And it makes the rich be able to have assets like, say, silver that will continue to go up in price. Also, their real estate. Obviously, their real estate is skyrocketing right now. Do the middle class and the poor own a lot of real estate? No, the wealthy do. The wealthy have a ton of real estate. It's the wealthy that's going to raise the prices of their rent. It's the wealthy that's going to charge more for their buildings. It's the wealthy that are going to have the building in the first place that just appreciated in value. It's not going to be the middle class and the poor. That's what's the scariest part about all of this. But this $1,400, it really helped. It's scary. And I think here's something that I want to say in this, and I guess I should say in this video. I know I always do these disclaimers, but disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor and I could be completely wrong about the things I'm saying in this video, so do not take it as fact, just educational opinion. That's what it is. I think that the Fed won't be worried about inflation rates like they're saying right now. They're not worried at all. I don't think they'll be worried until we actually are allowed to deduct an inflation rate from our tax returns. That's like I'll call that the silver drop moment. Now, my mic's here and it's kind of hanging, so I can't do the mic drop thing, but the silver drop, I think that's the silver drop moment there. They're not going to care until we actually say, hey, we want a deductible. If inflation is this much and we're losing this much of our savings, you see, the good American that saves dollars in a bank account is losing money year over year over year, right? So say I did well for myself and I tucked away $1 million in my bank account. Now my price of living is going up by 5% year over year over year. So why would I want to hold my $1 million sitting there in a bank account? I'm basically being, it's like it's a problem. It's a bad thing that I'm a saver. If I'm a saver, if I believe in the dollar and I want to hold the dollar in my bank account, I'm actually reprimanded for that. That's a problem. So we're all thinking in society, it's a good idea to save. No, we have ice cubes that are melting there. And it's worse because the banks that we're supposed to trust, when you're supposed to trust, these big commercial banks to hold your money, you're thinking to yourself, well, at least maybe they'll keep my ice cube frozen. No, they don't care. They don't care. They're not going to give you an interest rate. They're giving you 0.0 whatever. They'll add another decimal. If there's only one decimal, they're going to try to add an extra decimal just to give you less than that. 0.000.0001% a year for you. But you want something from us? Oh, you want a house loan? Oh, you want a business loan? Well, let's get the hurdles up. Let's get the hurdles up. Let's see if they can jump over these hurdles here first. Okay, you jumped over the hurdles. Now it's 8%. 8% for you. But when we get the money, 0 for you. Nothing for you. But when you want money from us, first it's the hurdles. You got to jump over the hurdles. Those are fun. Then after that, you get to go ask them for the money, and they're going to go 8%. Wait, I give you my money for free, but I get it for 8%. And what's worse is they give you 0, but they don't even keep your ice cube frozen. So you got an ice cube of $1 that is melting year over year over year, and now is proving to melt year over year over year. And they're not even willing to keep it frozen. You'd think the big banks that give out all of these loans and cause this dilution in the first place, the central banks starts the snowball, and the snowball effect turns into an avalanche from the commercial banks giving out loans at will, and so they diluted the dollar. It's them who caused this inflation, yet they have the audacity to not even give the public an interest rate to compensate for the inflation that they created. I get like I'm like it makes me like I have to do these live, otherwise it's hard to let you know how much this bothers me. It's just, And I got into it on if you follow me on Instagram or if you follow me on Twitter, I've been posting some, controversial stuff about college because, Elizabeth Warren loves to talk about forgiving student loans, that's like because right now is such a perfect time to be pushing that. But if anything, what we should learn from this inflation rate growing at the rate that it's growing is that if anything, what we should do is take the government out of the things that they spend money on. They're obviously terrible at handling a checkbook. It's that simple. So when I say something controversial about college on my Instagram or on my Twitter, and I've been going in on the college thing right now because personally I think the reason college is so expensive is because the government is in the college's pockets. They're putting money in there. And so here's the other crazy aspect. You get a loan, you get a credit card from Amex, right? Or you get a credit card or whatever it is, and then you can't pay your bill, you can go bankrupt, right? You don't want to, but you can. But when you get a loan from the government, you can't even pass away and get out of that debt. That debt is with you for life. Why is that? Why do they do that with the college situation? It's a crisis created by them. You got youth that if I go to the bank, I could show them assets. I could say, here's $250,000 in assets. Take a look at this. And they're still going to give me a hard time about getting a loan. I couldn't give them, they would not give me $100,000. They wouldn't give me $200,000. Even if I gave them a secured $200,000, I don't even know if they would still give me $200,000 then against my $200,000 that I gave them. But if I'm an 18-year-old kid, just don't know what I'm doing with my life, I just want to go study psychology, I'll get $100,000 loan for Jimmy over there, no problem. Jimmy, $100,000 loan for you, no problem at all for Jimmy. But if you're trying to build a business, all kinds of hurdles, all kinds of things to jump through. It's crazy to me. It's outright crazy to me. So when I see Elizabeth Warren saying, let's just forgive all the student debt. Let's just forgive it all. Okay, so you're going to go dig into the people's pockets that didn't have the lucky scenario of being able to go to college. That's a luxury to go to college. It's a luxury. You're supposed to pay for your luxuries. So the people who got the luxury of going to college that are statistically supposed to make more money are now going to dig in the pockets of, somebody that's been, really working hard for their money and didn't have the luxury of going to college. So they statistically are going to be making less. So the people that are making less should be paying for those who are living in luxury over in a college. Oh, perfect, Elizabeth Warren. You're right on. I'm so glad that you're a senator. I'm so glad. Isn't that fantastic that we have people like that running things? So great. So great. The truth of the matter is they have created this debt crisis, and they don't want the debt crisis that they created. They don't want to have to pick up that bill. So they're going to do whatever they can to make the citizens pick up for their problems. That's what happens. The more problems they create, the more they reach out to the citizens and go, oh, well, we messed up giving these loans out to these students who just kind of wanted to go and have a luxury of going to college. They wanted to be psych majors and all these different things, and they didn't really plan it out. And, they went to college to be an entrepreneur. They wanted to get an entrepreneur major down there at college. And, Jane and Jimmy and They all wanted to get these degrees, and they asked us for money here at the government, and we gave them $100,000 each. And it turns out that they can't really pay it back, and they're accumulating a lot of interest now. And hey, will you guys that have been working really hard pay for them? Because we kind of messed up. We gave them we shouldn't have given them a loan. We messed up over here. That's what I see from this student, debt crisis. It's not it. What you mean? You mean to tell me all of these kids that are so well, informed and so knowledgeable, they didn't understand how to balance a checkbook? No, they just took these loans because they were so easy to get. And then it turns out that the loan is not a unsecured debt, it's a secured debt against you. It's not even it's a secured debt against you as a citizen, against your social security number. That's where the debt is secured. Usually you got to secure a debt with an asset or with money. You secure the debt there. But no, they secure this student debt on you as a person. Literally. You can't even pass away to get out of it. It's with you for life, and you got to pay it back. So you better hope that you get that fancy, high-paying W-2 job that automatically strips, their percentage out of your check every single month. Better hope you get that W-2 job, because everybody goes to college. I think they're going to make $100,000, and that's going to be the golden ticket. I got my golden ticket right here out of college. There's my golden ticket. I'm going to go right in there, and it's no problem at all, and I'm just going to make $100,000 a year. Well, even if you got lucky and you got that $100,000 a year job, now you're only taking home $60,000 and you don't even get to hold the $100,000 like a businessman or a businesswoman gets to do. They get to actually hold the whole money before and do things and spend the money and get tax write-offs and stuff like that with the money. But if you get a college job, then you got a W-2. So you get the money automatically stripped out. You don't even get to touch it. It's just automatically stripped out of your check. But that's the American dream now, is going to college, getting in debt, and getting a W-2 job. But that's the truth of the matter. And I wanted to rant about why I disagree with college. Children don't need, and the youth do not need, they don't need college. The youth of today's day and age need an internet connection. That's what they need. Because guess what? The internet and the iPhone and all this is relatively new. It's relatively new technology to have a supercomputer in your pocket for $1,000. That's pretty interesting. Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff, it's like 2007. YouTube itself was 2007 when it came out. The first iPhone was 2007. This isn't even 20 years ago. I'm talking about 15 years ago. It's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me that nobody seems to know or seems to not care. But yeah, we got a student debt crisis, and that's just more to add to this whole situation with inflation. But when I hear Janet Yellen going on here and talking about, oh, well, it's transitory, it's not this big deal, it's just going to basically, it's going to just pass really easily, it's going to pass, it's not going to be a problem. Well, I happen to think that it is going to be a problem, and I happen to think that it's going to get worse. So what do we do? What do we do in this situation here? Well, the best thing that we could do is stack assets and protect what we have. The little bit of ice cubes that we have, we should protect them. And we should try to keep our ice cubes frozen or to accumulate ice cubes being dollars. And the more that this continues to go down this line and continues to be like this, it's just going to get more and more expensive to accumulate assets. That's all the things that I really wanted to talk about. It's scary. And the main thing that I wanted to say is, I think that the real inflation rate, the real cost of goods, is go to the gas pump. See how much more expensive it is at the gas pump. See how much more expensive it is when you go to buy a house now. When you're looking to find a new place to rent, a new apartment. See how expensive it is there. That's the real inflation rate. They say 5%. I doubt that. People are saying it's super laggy in the live feed. Well, speaking too many facts up in here, guys. I'm speaking too many facts. I should. The crazy thing is, my internet is directly wired, and I checked my upload speed and my download speed. My download's at 200 meg, and my upload is at, I think it was like at 15. So it's pretty strong. I have pretty strong internet, and it's directly connected, and it's using a brand new Mac Mini. So it's kind of wild to me that the internet connection is laggy. So it is what it is. Hit the subscribe button, because I'll have to drop regular videos or something. Maybe the live feed isn't the way to do these. But I just felt like going live and talking about this for a little bit, doing a quick 20-minute video. At least Bite Hunter says at least the audio is excellent, though. Fantastic. Well, if the audio is good, then we'll keep going. The audio is good, we'll keep going. If the facts use up a lot of bandwidth for YouTube, that's an awesome comment. I appreciate that. It just makes me happy that there's people out there that kind of they make me. I feel to myself, I feel crazy. When if I'm just thinking about this to myself. So if I go live and there's other people that actually feel the same way, it makes me feel human. It's just really scary about what's going on here, because I don't think inflation goes down. I don't think that this is going to just be transitory. I think the damage is done. You can't take the dollars you printed out of the system. You've already created them. You already diluted them. So how can you say that this is transitory, that inflation is transitory? No, this is going to be the new cost. I mean, the cost of living, we're just going to expect that our money is good. Say that things cost, or say that the real inflation numbers come out and it's actually 5%. Well, the bank isn't paying us 5%. So let's say we keep our money in cash and we throw it in the bank and get nothing against our money year over year. But the inflation rate is 5%. Well, in 10 years, we lose 50% of our money. Even at these low rates. They say that this is high. I think it's low. I think they're being generous. So let's say it goes up to 10%, which it probably already is 10%. That's probably the real situation, is that it's already at 10%. So in 10 years, at 10% inflation rate, you lost all of your money. Your ice cube completely melted. Lost all of its buying power. That's what we're supposed to believe. So basically what that does create, here's what that creates. It creates an environment where people are living month to month. Shoot, like week to week. Maybe not even month to month. If you have an inflation rate that's growing at these levels here, and the average American is living month to month already, and then on top of it, you're making it harder and harder with it. If getting rid of the 1031 exchange happens, or if you continue to raise the tax rates, then it's going to be harder and harder and harder to get from the middle class or the poor class to the rich. It's going to make it even harder as you go along. So you have a double whammy here. You have the savings that you have melting away. If you didn't put it in assets and you just save it in a bank account, it's melting away. And then at the same time, you have a situation where everything is costing more money. So your savings is losing its value, everything is costing more money, and it's harder and harder to accumulate money due to being overly taxed and all of these problems that the government has created. So when I talk about the whole thing about college, the reason I keep bringing that up is because it's such an obvious thing. I don't believe in getting rid of college. I believe in getting the government out of college. If the government was out of college, then guess what would happen? There would be more competition, because they wouldn't just be finding things. Here's the problem. The more money that the government gets in, the more things that they have to come up with on how to spend this money. Have you ever been in a situation where you had a big paycheck and you got lucky on something? You go, oh, I made a quick $5,000. I got a problem on my hands. How do I spend this $5,000? You come up with things pretty quick. And when you come up with those things on how you can, this is a great example. Mr. Beast videos. So you see Mr. Beast, he gives somebody $100,000 and he says, go to this shopping mall and spend, as much as you can. Spend as much as you can. Do they really think out their decisions? Do they buy, smart investments with that $100,000 that Mr. Beast gave them 10 minutes to spend at Best Buy or something? No, they just grab a bunch of PlayStations, they grab a bunch of junk and they put it in a circle and they say, I'll take this right here. That's what happens when the government gets more and more money. They're just trying to find stuff to spend it on. And that's why the cost of college is ridiculously high. And that's why the loans are ridiculously easy to get, because they want to pay for these costs that they've created by putting this crazy loan on the youth. And then when the youth can't pay off the loan, they come back to the citizens who didn't get the luxury of going to college to bail them out of the bad debt that they put themselves into. It's so... There's this Voltaire quote where it says, common sense isn't common. And it's so true. It's so true. Janet Yellen doesn't have common sense, but it's called common. You got to have uncommon sense in the world today to get ahead. And the only way to get ahead is by understanding, that you need to be buying assets. You need to be protecting your wealth against inflation, because the inflation number is not 5% in my personal opinion. Disclaimer, I think it's a lot higher than that. I think it's a lot higher than 5%. And if I'm right, even if I'm wrong, say it is 5%, in 10 years, you're going to lose 50% of your buying power. In 10 years, 50% of the value of that money just washed away in just 10 years. So we better do something with it. And here's another scenario. Imagine the dollar collapses, the dollar index crashes, because it's still sitting at a very lofty level at 90 on the dollar index, which is, wild that it's up that high. But the dollar index is high, and at the same time, the stock market is trading for collectibles. These aren't stocks. These aren't investments. These are collectibles. They're NFTs. That's how many Tesla NFTs do you have? I have 100 Tesla NFTs. How many AMC NFTs do you have? I got 50 AMC NFTs. These are collectibles. There's no price to earnings ratios that make any sense. This isn't making an investment like the stock market was intended to be. This is just turned into a casino. It's just a casino filled with NFTs. That's how I look at the stock market. I own 0 stocks. I'm all in on silver. I'm all in on Bitcoin. I'm all in on platinum. I'm all in on palladium, gold, everything that I can to protect my wealth because the options are so limited. But I'm not going to gamble in a casino of a stock market that is all trading at lofty levels that's valued in $1 that is proven to be diluted and is proven to have an increasing inflation rate. They say it's not increasing, but the only time that they will admit that there's a problem is if the citizens say we want a deductible. We want a tax deductible from how much this inflation rate has skyrocketed. This is your doing at the central bank. This is your doing at the commercial banks. You all diluted the dollar. Now we, the citizens, are paying for it. At a bare minimum, you should require the commercial banks to be paying an interest rate that compensates for the inflation rate that they created. At a bare minimum. That's just a start. But no, they have the audacity to give us nothing. Not even 1%. When the inflation rate has proven to be 5%, the banks won't even give us 1% on our money. Not even in a CD tied up account will they give you 1%. They should be giving us 5% in a checking account with full access to the funds at any given time. That's what they should do to compensate for this problem that they created on society. That's the solution. Now, what happens next, I don't know. But that's what a real solution would be. Another real solution would be, rather than doing all these stimulus checks, you just didn't tax people. If you say you print 15 trillion, right? And somewhere around that number. Not saying it's exactly that number, somewhere in that rough figure of 15 trillion. Well, they take in around 3 trillion every year, 3 to 3.5 trillion in revenue in taxes. Well, wouldn't it make sense to just not make people pay taxes for 3 years? How many of us get a W-2? And I remember I've talked about this in the past when I was a waiter and I'd get a W-2 and I go, wow, they really took a lot of money out of there. How much more would it benefit you at home if you got that full check? None of the money got stripped out for Social Security, Medicare, all these different things. If you just got the whole check and you got everything, it'd be a lot more than $1,400 probably, right? $2,800 or however much in the stimulus that we've gotten. It'd be a lot more than that if you got to keep all of your money that gets taken out of the W-2. Be a lot more than that. But that actually, not only would that, if they didn't tax us for 3 years, so we'd have another year and a half of no taxes, right? So if they didn't tax us for 3 years, it would only cost around 10 trillion. They printed more than that. So they would have saved trillions of dollars while not injecting dollars in the system and diluting the currency that we're paid in. So we would have kept more of our savings. We would have kept more of the money that we made, and we would be able to save it in a currency that wasn't diluted. But no, that makes too much sense. That makes too much sense because what we should do, according to Yellen and Powell, is we should just print trillions and trillions of dollars, spend it on whatever we can come up with off the top of our head, and then at the very minimum give these $1,400 checks. That's what we should do instead. Makes a ton of sense. Because diluting the dollar, the currency that people are paid in, while their wages are the same or going down, that makes way more sense than just not taxing them. You know how many people would want to start a business if there was no taxes on them? People would be hiring way more employees. Wages would be going up across the board. The economy would be booming if there was no taxes or less taxes. That's what would save us. But no, we keep trusting, the government keeps taking the money in and then finding things to spend it on. And they find so many things to spend it on that they run a deficit and they spend too much. And then when they give out bad loans and they spend too much, they come back to the citizens to bail them out again. That's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope that there was some good information in here. If you haven't been subscribed to the channel, I would love to have you as a subscriber on the channel. If you could smash that like button and help this video reach out to more people, it really does help. Sometimes I talk about some kind of tough subjects to talk about, and it probably isn't a good thing. I probably should just do, generic videos on the YouTube channel or something, but I got to keep it real with you all. So I don't have like some earbud company to advertise, or I don't have, some VPN to advertise for you. I just want to shoot these videos and do them live, and I hope that there's some good information for you. If you could subscribe, would really love to have you as a subscriber. Would really appreciate you being part of the channel. If you could smash the like button again, really does help get these videos out there so more people can see this type of content, and I hope it helps more people. I hope people know that if you go to my Instagram and you see all the things that I'm kind of bashing on college, I went pretty hard on that, and the reason for it is because you got to be willing to risk people not liking what you have to hear if you really care about your fellow human out there. If you really care about your fellow human, you're going to say information that they might not like to hear. The best information is usually bitter. And so I don't think in this day and age, I think we need to drastically reconsider what college is. College in the 70s and the 80s was a great thing, because that's where you went to go get knowledge, mainly because there was libraries there. That was why you went to college, because they had a beautiful library and you can go there and read books. But now you have access to all information at any given time whenever you want. If you need to go sit in a classroom to talk to a professor, you're not passionate enough. Point blank. I won't sugarcoat things. If you really need to go to a college to get the inspiration to do whatever it is that you're doing, if it's for a business degree or being an entrepreneur, this doesn't count for lawyers and doctors. You have to go there, and I feel for you because it's like an 8-year thing. But if you just want to go there to be like a business major, an entrepreneur major or something, and you think that you have to go there to learn these things, you're not passionate enough. Not at all. I lived in my warehouse for 5 years building. That's how I got my nest egg together. You got to get passionate. If you really want to get ahead, you have a supercomputer in your pocket, Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere. Figure something out. You have all the tools at your disposal. You don't need to go to college and put yourself in debt and then ask for other Americans who are also suffering and didn't get the luxury of going to college to bail you out. Ironically, Elizabeth Warren went to Harvard. Ironically, Elizabeth Warren is worth $10 million between her and her husband. But no, we should listen to her. We should listen to her and, help her get her kids through Harvard too, or whatever it is that she wants to do with the other Americans' money. I couldn't disagree more, and I am not sorry for disagreeing. Not even a little bit. And, I'm willing to take the heat if it bothers, some individuals, but that's the truth. That's my truth. I think that it is a ridiculous thing right now, that how much college costs for what you get out of it. You could get so much more off watching YouTube videos. So much more. It's essentially watching Janet Yellen speak about inflation when you could go to YouTube and listen to guys like Peter Schiff. Listen to, I hope I make some sense. I hope that my videos are worthy of watching. But when it comes to inflation information and stuff like that, Peter Schiff runs a great show over there. But I don't agree with his point on his stance on Bitcoin. I never will. Sorry, Peter. But I love you for being a libertarian and everything that you do other than that. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about. I hope that the video was worth watching. I know that people are saying the stream is laggy, but I hope that the sound quality at least was worth listening to. Maybe it's a situation where you can turn off the video and just play the music or something like that, or play the sound. But thank you all so much for being part of the page. If you could subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. If you could hit that like button, would really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and call it a night. It's getting a little bit late. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about here. So thank you all again. See you at the next video. Signing out.